Yes, there is sound. It is amazing what happens if you unplug your microphone and take out your earbuds. All the things you put in place to make sure the sound is optimal. And then you go live and you say, and we're live. And the first thing in the chat is no sound, because those things you use to optimize your sound sometimes fuck you up. And that is how 2026 is starting. Yes, we are live. We have sound. And it is Thursday, January 1st, the year of our Lord 2026. And I have so many things to monologue about. And already, by the way, we have whining from the chat. We have comments that there don't appear to be any stairs yet, that maybe I'm not at the cabin. And I just want to point out that y'all are a bunch of whiners. And I have particular evidence of your whiny nature, some of you anyway. So in the Dogshirt TV chat, the estimable Holly Berkley Fletcher yesterday texts, "The Greek chorus is restive without me and the cactuses. I have been sent an SOS. A member, actually two, separately, begging me to return, saying you don't handle the cactuses and your monologues are too long." Well, guys, I just want to say, if the point is we miss Holly Berkley Fletcher, I agree. I miss Holly Berkley Fletcher, and I'm excited for her return. She is returning to the Washington, D.C. area today, and I will be very pleased to have her back in the area. I'm going to see her today. And by the way, then I assume she will be on the show tomorrow. So if the point is, we miss Holly Berkley Fletcher, we welcome her back, I am in total agreement with you. Now, if the point is, however, that I don't handle the cactuses properly or sometimes at all, let me say to you all, that is a specious criticism, because first of all, the cactuses are Holly's domain. I don't want to intrude on Holly's domain. And I am aware, one of the things that separates people who are superb at what they do from everybody else in the world is that issue of knowing what you're good at and focusing what you're good at and on what you're good at. And what I am good at is not cactus wrangling. So I delegate that stuff to the people who are cactus wrangling experts. If the point is that the monologues are too long, one of the problems with perfidious co-hosts who don't show up, and not to mention members of the Greek chorus who delay and on hitting that join the show button, is that y'all leave me to talk by myself. Now, talking for an hour by myself is not the hardest thing in the world for me to do. I can do it when I need to do it. But it is not my preferred mode of interaction with, say, hundreds of people, dozens of whom are here present and could relieve me of the obligation of talking at any time, but choose not to. The alternative to a long monologue is silence, unless somebody else is here Um, uh, and so I just want to say, this criticism has no merit unless the two, and I want to stress that two people made this criticism, didn't have the guts to make it to my face, went behind my back to complain to Holly. This criticism has no merit unless one of those people has been getting on the show and is is actively intervening to alleviate the situation and then thinks I'm handling it badly. So if you are John Hawkinson and you made that criticism, you get a pass.
No, it was me.
Oh, we have a confession.
So,
Confession. The tribunal, Kate Sinatra, is awaiting your confession.
well, okay. So to be fair, I was emailed Holly about some Africa articles that I was sending her, and I just said to lighten the mood. Well, we miss you, Holly. Um, we missed you on Dogshire TV. Ben's monologue, what maybe yesterday or today, was 11 minutes long. That's what I said, and that was because that was hi Holly, and that was because we had on the and the Voice of America lady, and you were taking 11 minutes, and I really wanted to hear her talk. So it
Okay.
was not one of your single days.
Wait, to be fair,
I did not give your name,
I know you
by the
didn't.
way.
I
no,
self-disclosed.
Kate gave herself up. To be fair about Kate Lisanova, other Kate,
Yes, Kate.
I talked. That monologue is primarily an introduction of the guest,
Right.
and there were a bunch of things that I promised Kate that I would say because she is getting ready to launch Substack, and there are things that that I wanted people to understand about her project and her work that I didn't want her to have to say herself.
Right.
And so that monologue was long, but if you go back to it, it was long because I was saying things about the guest.
Okay.
And
Well, I
I
will.
actually don't really apologize for that because
Ben's gonna need a lawyer or something
Well,
here.
I'm going to re-listen. Re-listened to all of them. I've not gotten to that one yet, and I'm going to see if there was 11 minutes worthy of a grand introduction. But it was still, look, it was all in good fun. It was good nature.
I'm just saying, I'm not sensitive to this at all,
I
Kate.
know.
I'm
That's why
not.
I admitted it.
No, I actually am sensitive to it. That's
Oh,
why
well
I'm
then,
taking the
sorry, Ben.
first 11 minutes of this show to whine about it. Um, uh,
Yeah, but this is not a
uh,
monologue.
well, I mean, look, it's
Look,
not a
my
monologue
bottom line is
because you jumped on and jumped in. Look, folks, the point is, here is the
everything
point.
falls apart without me. That's the
There
point.
you
The
go.
point is everything falls apart without Holly Berkley Fletcher. And also, starting 2026 by whining is the appropriate way to transition to the new year because there's a lot to whine about and things are not as they should be. And this is the year we're going to fucking start setting it right. So, start by airing grievances and whoever that second person is who has not honorably outed him or herself, as Kate did,
Well, I'll get off. I just wanted to, since I always say everything to everyone's face. And so it was me, Ben. I'm sorry. And Holly, we miss you. And Ben, I am a loyal listener anyway, even if your monologues go 20 minutes. So thanks everyone and Happy New Year.
look, it is, hey, one of the things about an iterative show with dialogue with the audience is that sometimes the audience criticizes you. And you just have to man up or woman up and deal with that.
If
And
this
so
is your biggest problem of 2026, then it'll be a very good year.
all right. Folks, the sun is shining. The birds are chirping. It's going to be a great fucking year. And you are watching Dog Shirt TV. And though Holly cannot wrangle the cactuses today, I think she has something to tell you.
Not really. I'm
All
just
right.
I'm just in the airport and there's nothing else to
No,
do. We're waiting for the flight and
you're watching Dog Shirt TV,
oh,
a fucking revolution in morning
well,
television.
I'm a little rusty. You're watching Dog Shirt TV, an effing revolution in morning television. That's my
You
impression of the
are watching.
cactus. Like,
You are watching Dog Shirt TV, and it is a goddamn revolution in morning television. One of the revolutionary features is that every now and then on January 1st in the morning, I text the DSTV chat and I say, who wants to come on and give New Year's greetings? And nobody responds. And so I don't think you're getting New Year's greetings from non-Holly Berkley Fletcher co-hosts. And the only reason Holly is here is that I did text her separately that I was going to read her comments out loud and razz the audience about them. And she came here to protect you all because that is the sort of person she is from an airport in Texas. Holly, Happy New Year.
Arkansas, even worse. Or actually better.
Oh,
I far prefer Arkansas to Texas. Let me just say. Like, it's not even close.
well, Arkansas is one of the states I have never been to. There aren't that many of them left,
What?
but
You have
Arkansas
to
is
come to
one.
Kevin's mom's house. I'll just invite you to
I,
Kevin's mom's house. She is the nicest person. She is one of maybe seven anti-Trump people in this state. She has paid a social price for her support for democracy, and she's a great American, let me tell you. Um,
well, I also would like to point out that unbeknownst to me, I accidentally hit the transcribe voice record button on my phone. And so my phone is now in a text message to Holly transcribing the show. And I'm just rather than trying to erase it all, I'm just going to send it. Um,
my
and
phone's gonna like, my phone's gonna crash.
yeah, I don't know when that started,
My phone
Holly.
is just, oh
Um,
dear. Yeah.
So, all right. So here's the thing. We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have the New Year's edition where any co-host that wants to come on, including, by the way, that includes the extended network of Jonathan Rauch and, people who are invited. Anybody who wants to come on and give New Year's greetings, including the Greek chorus, Andrew Steele, if you're there, if you want to come on and schedule some platonic dialogues, we can do that. But Holly, let's start with you because you're here. What are your New Year's wishes for the Greek chorus?
Well, I hope everybody has a happy, healthy, democratic new year. I hope that we all find ways to contribute this year. I know everybody wants to contribute to the cause, and sometimes it's difficult to know exactly what to do. So my wish is that everyone will get a clear idea of what it is they're supposed to be doing. That's a gift to have some clarity and direction. So that's what I hope for everybody. Where are you, Ben? There's some nice paintings behind you.
Yes, and Carol T will probably recognize those prints. So I am in my dining room, and the reason that I'm in my dining
Hmm.
room, John Hawkinson, and not at the cabin, is that The estimable Mona Charon is having her New Year's Day party today, and I don't miss Mona Charon's New Year's Day party
Neither do
because
I, which is why I'm on a very early flight. I'm
yeah,
actually headed back specifically for that.
it it is time to fly home to Washington to make sure because there are these things institutions in Washington that are central to the pro-democracy community. One of them is soirees at David Fromm's house.
Now
Uh,
that I have not gotten that invite, so
well, you will. Another one is Dog Shirt TV, of course, and yet another one is the New Year's party at Mona Charon's house, and it's a very important thing that the pro democracy community stick together. Um, uh,
so let me tell you the conversation I had with our family yesterday. They say, when are you guys leaving? I'm like, we're leaving New Year's Day. Huh. Do the kids have school on Friday? No, they do not. Why are you leaving New Year's Day? Why don't you stay longer? We have to get back for a New Year's party. What? That's weird. I'm like, you don't understand. This New Year's party every year is my only shot at in my in my ambitions to be a fancy person. This New Year's party is a very key opportunity to become a fancy person, which I don't think I'm quite yet there, but every year I get a little closer. Maybe I will see David Fromm again this year, and he'll actually remember me, and then he'll actually be somewhat interested in who I am as a person. Doubtful. And then maybe when he has a party next, he might think to invite me. Very, very doubtful. So, every year it's a new opportunity. This is maybe, we didn't go last year. We didn't get back in time, which is probably why my book didn't do as well as I had hoped.
it may also be
So
why
yeah,
democracy failed this year.
yeah. So this
Consider
is
that your
Kevin's first
fault.
year. This is Kevin's first year. He has been sick every single year, but this year he appears to be well as of now. So hopefully he'll make his debut at the party, and he too may one day become a fancy person like yourself, Ben. But anyway, so then I explained to them, I'm like, they're like, who really? Oh, I'm like, are these famous people? I'm like, they're DC famous. They're like, what is DC famous? I'm like, you've never heard of any of them. But if you live in DC, you know at least a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think of Mona's. Like one of the things about the democracy community is that a lot of the people who make really very substantial contributions are not especially visible.
That's true.
And it is there is the public facing side of it, like which are, you know, uh people who are in the information publicity business of one sort or another. Like I'm an example of that. Jonathan Rauch is an example of that. You are increasingly an example of that. There are
Not really.
other. Well, I mean, you did write a book, and you've you co-host the most
You know,
important
I hope I never become a fancy
weekend
person,
morning
because then what
television.
will I do with my life? If I actually become a fancy person, what is my purpose then? Is my whole goal is to become a fancy person. And if I reach that goal, then what else is there? So I hope
Yeah,
I never
what else
become a
is there to
fancy.
do? Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
but there are a bunch of people who I wouldn't say labor in obscurity, but work quietly. For example, all of the people who litigate these cases that we talk about, uh, um, you know, all of the public servants who are getting fired, you see the ones who choose to talk publicly, like Mike Feinberg. There's a lot who don't choose to talk publicly for one reason or another. There's also the people who don't get fired, but who are doing good and important work inside. And then there are people who do the heavy lifting of, say, running organizations, of which they may or may not be the public face, but the public facing work of the organization is relatively low profile. There's also a lot of people who do, for every organization and individual that's out there publicly, there are usually a team of people behind that person. And so, and
Yeah.
often those people are very well known within the community for one reason or another,
For
but
instance,
don't,
Ms. Priya.
for example, that
Priya.
is a really good example. Priya Gada, who is
She's a badass. We love her.
Priya
We should
is
have her on. I don't know if she would come on.
I don't know if she would want to. So Priya is
She probably wouldn't want
Sarah
to.
Longwell, um, uh, 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 administrative person. She's been working for Sarah for, I don't know, she used to record the French Village podcast when Sarah and I did that every week. And so that was 8 years ago. So she's been working for Sarah for at least 8 years. And
That was not
um,
was that 8 years ago? That was not.
yeah, well,
Eight?
it was
No.
right at the beginning. I think it was right at the beginning of or middle of the first Trump administration. So yeah, it should be about 8 years ago
Hmm.
now. Um,
That's
so the point is, there are a lot of Washington famous people of varying degrees of fame who have almost no public profile at all. Um, uh,
and then there's the
anyway,
Washington famous people who are very Washington famous, but you get about 50 miles outside of Washington and nobody knows who they are, or very few
that's
people do.
right. Well, and like I am a good example of that. I
Nobody knows,
am
none of these people knew who you were, Ben. I said,
exactly
Ben
right.
Wittes. They're like, who is that? I'm like, he's so important. He's
So
so important.
I cannot walk through an airport in Washington without getting made by somebody. But I can't but I will never get recognized in an airport other than a Washington airport. So that's actually a good example. I can wander around. If I drive 40 miles out of Washington, I'm nobody, which is lovely, a lovely experience, by the way. Um, okay. Um, Holly, when is your flight?
It is um in like 30 minutes, I guess. I don't know. When do
Oh,
they tell
okay.
me?
So
And then we have a connection. I hope we make it.
we have to
I
front
hope we
load
make our
all Holly
connection
members.
and all that. So sorry.
So Holly, I want to give my New Year's greeting while you're here because I think you will have an interesting response to it. Back in my college days, there was a professor at Oberlin College. He was actually a professor of German. I never took a class with him. His name was Sidney Rosenfeld. And Sidney used to come. This was not a New Year's thing. It was a Rosh Hashanah thing, a Jewish New Year's thing. Um, and he would come to services for Rosh Hashanah, and we would all there at the apples and honey dipping. There would be everybody would give a New Year's wish for the community. And Sydney would every year say this without a trace of an apparent sense of humor. He was not a funny man, and he would say, "I wish for you all precision in language and good grammar." And we never had any idea whether this was meant as a joke or as a sincere New Year's wish. Um, and um, uh, And so I just want to relay. I assume Sydney is no longer among the living, although I have no reason to be confident of that. He may well be. If you're out there, Sydney Rosenfeld, who I saw laugh exactly once in my life, um, uh, uh, best wishes to you on this new year. Your New Year's greeting has stuck with me, and I want to share it with the world. I wish you all precision in language and proper grammar. Um, and um, and that is my New Year's greeting for the world. And that I want to give a very special variant of this to people who think it is proper to use nominative subject pronouns as objects pronouns in English when they are compounded and first person. So for you and I, um, uh, 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 give it to Holly and me, give it to Holly and I. This is pretentious illiteracy, people. The word me is an important word in the English language. Yeah, and I know that when you were little and you would say, me and Holly want to go to the store, your mother would correct you and say Holly and I. But that doesn't mean that all constructions involving you and Holly should get the I. For some of them, me is the correct pronoun. And so I wish you accuracy in your use of first person compound object pronouns, particularly if you are somebody who is doing it thinking you sound more literate because you're saying Holly and I instead of saying me. You actually sound illiterate. And just my wish for you this year is that you're going to fix that in yourself. You know, a little bit of mindfulness goes a long way. When you meditate, think about object pronouns.
This is not directed to me,
And
is it? Is
no,
this directed to me
no,
specifically? Is
no.
this a problem even because
You,
actually I was raised, my mother was an English teacher and she was very big on this point. So I don't think this is a
no, this
problem
is
for
not
me.
in any sense directed at Holly. Um,
Okay.
uh, this is this is directed. There may be prominent journalists who appear in public who this is directed to. There may be even people who work for lawfare who have not figured this out. But I really feel like calling individuals out is not consistent with the new year. And this is really in the spirit of Sidney Rosenfeld, just alerting the community to a grammar problem and that exists out there. It is particularly an issue with people below the age of 35. I think there's I don't know how this problem developed, but
It's the least of their
so
problems, to
another,
be clear.
well, I just want to say not all compound pronouns in the first person should be I. Think about whether you are um uh um so this is Andrew Seal raises a very important point, and there's a very easy way to check this point. So Andrew writes, he's better than I is sneakily correct because then it is a correlative, not a preposition. The best way to check whether you should use an I or a me is to finish the sentence. He's better than I am. Easy, right? It's going to be I. Give it to Holly and me, because if you leave Holly out, you wouldn't say give it to I. It's very easy to check. It's very easy to think about. It just
You know,
requires
this is
thinking a
exactly
little bit. grammar of the English language.
This is exactly why around 20 people get up and watch this show every day. Is content like this. I mean, this is gold, Ben. Um, Let me also say a word, if we're talking about grammar, about passive voice, which my advisor, actually most advisors, I would say, writing, and certainly in the government as well, passive voice is an enemy, a very bad enemy. My advisor just passed away, actually, my graduate advisor, which is very sad because I adored him. Um, and anyway, I learned no passive voice. And although I do think that passive voice is sometimes appropriate, it's definitely often diplomatic. Sometimes it is polite to use the passive voice.
Mistakes were made.
Remain, that's correct. I just ran into a use of the passive voice that particularly irks me. And that is on food recipes, blogs, on food articles. I just read an article in the Washington Post, which I hate food. Just give me the recipe, just give me the recipe. I don't want like a story about your grandma or whatever. Anyway, when they
I
say
really don't want stories about people's grandmas.
yeah, when they say that the dish comes together, I hate that phrase. It doesn't come together. If food
Right.
just
It
came
doesn't do it on
together,
its own. Right.
exactly. If only it
Although that's
would
not
come
an
together.
active voice. It's a weirdly passive construction,
Oh, you're
but
right.
it's actually the active voice. It's just
You're right.
creating the
An act,
subject
the
is the
wrong
wrong
actor.
subject.
You're so right about that, Ben. I apologize for my
N-
mislabeling of passive
No, no,
voice.
no. But Holly is getting to something deep and important about the construction, which is that it feels passive because
Ah,
the dish is doing
food,
it itself.
nothing. It's
Food,
doing nothing.
right.
The
And that's of
food is a
course wrong.
lazy ass. Yes. Anyway, I hate that. I'm like, the dish is not coming together. The dish is doing nothing. I'm doing all the work. And the dish is doing nothing. And this is why I hate cooking. I'm going to have to say goodbye because they are boarding my flight now.
All right.
So
Holly is
I
going,
hope to see you at Mona's party, but things could go awry and I could not make it.
but in any event, I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock with cactuses.
Yes, I do hope. Yes, I will. I promise I will. Bye,
Holly, you
everyone.
are a
Happy
good
New Year.
American and have a safe trip home. All right, folks, we have a number of items on the table. The first is John Hawkinson's demand that we discuss the subjunctive. I told him in the chat we are happy to discuss the subjunctive, but he's got to come on to raise his subjunctive issue if he wants to do that. The second thing we've got to talk about, folks, is whether other members of the Greek chorus have New Year's wishes for us. Holly has given hers. I have given mine. The question is, what are yours? Um, uh, um, um, and uh, all right. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the chat, and I am unable to do so. Because that's the thing about talking while you're reading the chat. It's actually kind of hard, particularly when you pick up things midstream. All of which brings me to my second New Year's greeting of a New Year's wish of the year. And I have spent a lot of time this year. This one's semi-serious, actually, although it's on the subject of non-serious matters. Um, uh, I have spent a lot of time this past year thinking about the role of humor. And I have become convinced that, which I'm not by any means the first person to become convinced of this. I don't want to take credit for this insight, that humor has a really, really important role in anti-authoritarian everything. And we had a number of amazing demonstrations of that this past year, including, most importantly, well, there were the Portland Frogs. There was any number of dancing dinosaurs. There was Jimmy Kimmel. And there was, a lot of good examples of humor and the role that it plays. But one of the things about humor is that you have to be able to make yourself a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, well, so DNL raises Lindsay Halligan, which of course is correct. But the thing about Lindsay Halligan is that she is not intentionally funny. She is not making fun of anything. She is just ridiculous. And so that's actually a special case. I think she actually does take herself seriously, and that's what makes her funny. In fact, I can't even say that without kind of smiling. Folks, if you are not Lindsay Halligan and you want to use humor to make fun of the situation, you have to be willing to make yourself a little bit ridiculous. And this is actually hard for people because we grow up with the idea that, if you're going to do something in public, you should put on a suit and you should be dignified and you should make a serious point. And all of that seems to me to be right. If you are critiquing the Bush administration's rationale for invading Iraq, or if you're defending the Bush administration's policies on coercive interrogation / torture, or if you're critiquing them, right? And I never really thought about this point in the context of earlier administrations, because in different ways, they were all composed of serious people making serious arguments about serious things. Now, some of them were wrong. Some of them were catastrophically wrong. Some of them were badly argued. Some of them were well argued, but with important factual problems. I'm thinking of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Good faith error from which you can reason your way, good faith factual error from which you can reason your way to all sorts of wrong things. Given a false statement, I can prove anything true. I forget who said that. But you don't need humor to trace what's wrong with that. You need actual factual rigor. You need to understand where you need the Weapons of Mass Destruction Committee report, led by my old friend, the late Larry Silberman, Silberman and Chuck Robb. You need to be willing to confront arguments seriously. And then there comes a point where all of that earnestness is actually a mistake, because you're dealing with clowns, and critiquing clowns for their facts is, or monkeys for their facts, for their logical reasoning, is an error. Shoebills, John Hawkinson points out, right? I mean, these are category errors. And so there comes a point where all you can do is say, I'm not wearing a suit to this fight. I'm wearing a dog shirt. I'm not playing by the rules of Washington debate. I'm bringing a laser. Maybe you should use a gobo projector instead of a laser for safety reasons. And I think part of that, the uncontroversial part of this statement, is the idea that humor has an important role in this. The part that I think is a little bit more controversial is, and that I feel strongly about as a New Year's wish for everybody, is that in order to do this effectively, you have to have some skin in the game. And this is, I think, as I've thought about what is the animating spirit behind the Get Ready With Me videos, if you are not willing to make fun of yourself, if you are not willing to be an object of ridicule, can you really do the ridicule? So several of you in the chat have mentioned The Onion. And I want to use The Onion as a good example of this. So The Onion makes fun of people. They also make fun of themselves. And the way they do this is they take serious journalists like Joshua Johnson, who used to, he's was a real radio television personality. And they make him the face of the Onion News Network. And so, they are parodying other people. They're also parodying themselves, always. And they're being willing to offend. They're being willing to say, hey, we have some skin in this game. And I think this is what makes the Portland Frogs effective, that they are not merely making fun of ice by, jiggling their butts and whatnot, but they are willing to dress up as frogs to do it. And so my New Year's wish for everybody is, and by the way, as a mid and increasingly late 50s white guy with a very distinguished Brookings Senior Fellowship, this is not the easiest transition to make, making fun of myself. I find it liberating. I find that getting in touch with my inner 13-year-old boy is a part of the anti-authoritarian process. And that part of what the anti-authoritarian teenager says to the world is, but I don't wanna. But no, make me. I think that is a real part of the current milieu, that we all should be saying, but I don't want to. Make me. I'm going to do this because you think it's ridiculous. All these very juvenile activities, these very juvenile attitudes that we think of as beneath us, are actually really, really important to forcing the regime, and I want to distinguish between the regime and the government, to justify its actions. And so I wish for you all skin in the game, make fun of yourselves, be willing to make fun of yourselves by way of making fun of something else, and do it. And I'm saying that partly by way of pushing myself further in this direction, that there is a place um, for uh, um, there is a place for the serious Brookings paper. And I don't want to diminish the place for the serious Brookings paper. I've written the very serious Brookings paper many times. I will do it again. There is a place for the very earnest lawfare article. There is also a place for the Portland Frog and for the uh, unflattering picture of Kash Patel projected onto the Hoover building for no reason at all, except that I can. And I think we have enough of the earnestness stuff going on. I want to encourage everybody to be a little bit more in touch with the side of yourself that says, if this is a free country, why can't I uh, uh, moon the FBI building? Or some, less obnoxious or maybe more obnoxious version of that. Um, Andrew Steele, soulful attorney. I see you've made a transition, a professional transition in 2026.
I
What
went
is,
and saw The Wizard and got a soul.
yeah, what is your New Year's wish for the Greek chorus?
Oh, I have so many wishes for mischief and joy this year. Is also, are they vacating the Hoover Building soon? Is that
Well, I
happening?
mean, they say they are. They say they're
Right.
moving to the Reagan building, but of course, you would require some appropriations for that. The Reagan building is not remotely ready to have the kind of secure stuff that it would require to to
The
do
headquarters.
to be FBI headquarters. So you're talking about some number of
Years.
years, I think, before they would be in a position to
Yeah.
do that. But yeah, they have announced that they are vacating the Hoover building.
Yeah. It could be funded by like, some Bank of New York guy or something, like the whatever military stopgap was. Am I giving an echo? Do you hear that?
I'm not getting an
Okay,
echo
cool.
on you.
So all good. So yeah, hey everyone, great happy New Year's. If you happen to be in New York, I would recommend the bar Fish Market. I'm gonna put it in the chat here. Um, and it's an awesome place to hang out. And hello, John. One item, I suppose. I don't know if I'm quite ready to do the scheduling and would want to maybe check out the Google Calendar, but one request earlier in the show was for which dialogues to discuss at some point on the show. Um,
Just to fill in Jonathan Rauch, who has
yes.
joined us here, Andrew has suggested that as part of the Make America Read Again book club, we do, which is, has a monthly new nonfiction with a fiction wine pairing suggested by the author. And we have the author to talk to the Greek chorus about the book with the fiction wine pairing. And Andrew suggested that we add a little mix of short writing and that we start with some Platonic dialogues for the Mara book club, and that we call these the short Mara or Smara book club. So we're gonna schedule some Platonic dialogues. Yeah, I asked Andrew, who's a bit of a classicist in his spare time, what Platonic dialogues we should start with.
Yes. So the initial thought I had was, I think a combo of the Euthyphro and the Apology would be good. Um, Not that everyone has to read all of both of them, even though they're quite short. But the Euthyphro has a lot of like almost sort of analytic philosophical content. And then the Apology is sort of like an exhortation to like higher moral thinking. Um, and then I think, not to, I think we should definitely do other types of short readings. But there's a number of really other great short ones. There's the Lysis on Friendship. There's the Cratylus, which is actually inspired my blog, which I started in 2017, which is about linguistics. It's the origin of words. Um, so that's a fun one, and similarly very short and accessible. So yeah, I would say that that little cycle of the last days of Socrates, the trial of Socrates would be good. Um, Kate also asked if there were any that were about death, and then asked that maybe the Phaedo had stuck with her from college. So yeah, so those are fun ones to do.
And for
Excited
those
for
who
other suggestions too.
are making jokes about reading them in Greek versus
We can
English,
do that.
there is, so Andrew can handle the Greek, but for those who need a translation, there is an excellent Yale series of translations. I believe it's in 3 volumes of all of the Platonic dialogues, I think, except the Republic. And because that has been I don't remember when it was published, but it's been around for a while. It's definitely still in print. Yale uses it for a bunch of their courses, and so for anybody who and there are, because it's a course book, there are $5 and $6 copies lurking around Amazon for anybody who's looking for versions of this. They're excellent.
And then there are a few great online resources. The MIT Classical Library has great translations, and Perseus is Tufts' service, where they provide. I think they have all of the Platonic dialogues. You can read it in Greek and English in parallel, which is really cool, and you can like click on the words and the Greek or Latin words and see what they mean. So yeah, that's all that I have also for this new year in response to Holly's kind of exhortation to find something to do. Adam Schiff said something along the same lines. Find like one good thing to do. I'm trying to think of whether I should start to do a little bit more work on a campaign. We have some in my home state of Massachusetts that I'm pretty close with one of the guys who's running against Stephen Lynch, who's very, very entrenched and kind of a loser. And also replacing Jerry Nadler, who has served our country very well, and sort of interested in how that race shakes out. George Conway announced. So yeah, so
Yeah, so
I'm thinking about that one.
George Conway, who I will point out is a great American, and George. For those who don't know, when George uh, was struggling with what to do. His wife was the senior advisor to the president. Was about to be nominated to be head of the civil division, and he decided he couldn't do it. And the very first thing he did before he said anything in public, before he um, started tweeting, is he made a rather large contribution to lawfare. And we were sufficiently disorganized that I didn't notice it for about 6 months. And when I noticed it, he was already sort of famous because he started by retweeting things. And had already been stories about like, what is Kellyanne Conway's husband up to? And his first article was for lawfare. And he and there was a point where the great Annie Carney, who I think then was still at Politico, was wrote a story about what he was up to, and I kind of like I was the person we were kind of confidants at that point, and by that point, and so I ended up kind of uh, not by no means speaking for him, but talking a little bit to her about uh, what his project was. And I cannot think of somebody running for Congress in any district from any party who has thought harder about what the moment requires of us all, including him. And there is not a party campaign committee to contribute to yet, but I will support George Conway financially. I will support George Conway morally. I think in every way that somebody can stand up for democracy, um, uh, including in the most personal ways he has done it. And I think the world of George.
Yes, I think he's a great candidate. I want to hear from John, though. So farewell, everybody, and happy 2026, the year of our Lord.
John Rauch, you came on yesterday and we were busy with the great Katerina Lisanova. What are your wishes for the Greek chorus 2026?
Well, I'm just here because you invited me, and of course I overslept because getting up at 8 a.m. on New Year's Day is just apparently it's just not happening. Just not happening. You're a better man than I am. So I'm just here to say Happy New Year. I think 2026 will be better in a number of respects than 2025. I'm feeling for the first time in about a year, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about things actually holding up and improving. And mostly I just want to say thanks to you and the folks at Lawfare who are really doing the work every day, day after day.
Well, we're trying, and thank you for that. We are working on it. And I want to say, if you want to share Jonathan's optimism,
Cautious
optimism. There is a document that you should read, and I wish I had a link to it right now, but I don't because I didn't think about sharing it before I started the show. But it is the letter from Ian Basson, who is a friend of Jonathan and mine. He runs Protect Democracy. Got a MacArthur Award recently, which is something that neither Jonathan nor I can say. Ian is a really very fine legal activist. He's also a serious thinker about matters democracy. And he wrote a kind of year-endish letter right around Thanksgiving, I think, about the corner we are turning. And I thought it was very wise, very measured, careful in its optimism, and yet usefully optimistic, and analytically right in all material respects, which is not to say everything's going to be fine, nor is that what Ian is saying. But we are in a different place than we were 6 months ago. And
I endorse all that. And seeing that it's 9 a.m., I want to add something important.
do it. We'll even run long for you to do that.
I am a proud Lawfare donor. And I discovered how easy it is if you have a donor advised fund, for example, Fidelity Charitable, how easy it is to indicate a donation to Lawfare. And every penny of that, I give away a fair amount of money every year around this time, as much as I can afford to. And I love giving to Lawfare because I know exactly where it's going. I'm reading the people who are writing, who are being paid based on that donation. And I would just urge everyone to give to Lawfare.
Well, that is incredibly generous of you, Jonathan, both that you do it and
Well, in
that you
6 months, you might notice.
um, uh, so I want to say, first of all, a huge number of people, in fact, donated to Lawfare yesterday, and I am very grateful for that. I think uh, the number of people who are the percentage of Lawfare's budget that is coming from small donors now is growing and is remarkably large, actually. And I think that's a really interesting statement of the relationship between just ordinary readers and the work that we're doing. Um, and um, and I also think that we um, look, we have a lot of growing to do. Um, and I made a number of commitments a number of years ago. One was that we would never grow faster than we could do responsibly. And responsibly means two things, which is that we can't grow faster than we can maintain quality standards. And our quality standards are awesomely high. And so that really does limit the pace of growth. And the second is I never, ever, ever want to lay anybody off. And so we're not going to grow faster than we can do we're not going to grow in a kind of Silicon Valley boom and bust cycle in which, people get afraid of things um, and then give a lot of money, and then a year later they're feeling complacent and we have to lay people off. That is not going to happen. And so there are limitations on the pace of our growth. But the one of them is not user and reader engagement and enthusiasm. And so for those of you who gave to Lawfare yesterday or in the last few weeks, including apparently Jonathan Rauch, you are great Americans. Thank you very much. And for those of you who haven't, 2026 is a new year. Folks, we're going to be back tomorrow. It's going to be January 2nd of the year of our Lord 2026. I don't know who the co-hosts are going to be, except that Holly Berkley Fletcher will be here. I don't know who the guests are going to be, but you're going to be there, and I'm going to be there. And I want you to stop complaining about the calendar, guys. I made a calendar for you to be useful, and this is the thanks I get. See you tomorrow.